Welcome to Unit 2, Managing Your Money Like a Snowball Rolling Downhill. My wealth has come from a combination of living in America, some lucky genes, and compound interest, and that's Warren Buffett. Have you ever watched an avalanche slide down a hill? If you have, you notice how it starts somewhat small, gains speed, and ends with a massive amount of snow below a cliff. In this scenario, money is the financial equivalent of the avalanche. Interest works in much of the same concept with dollars rather than snow. Hi, I'm Desiree, and I'll walk you through how compound interest works. The first half of my presentation will show a table which easily conveys the difference between simple interest and compound interest. One can also view the formulas of both simple and compound interest to understand those differences. The second half shows a formula to enhance their knowledge of how interest is compounded several times per year rather than just annually. This is a table that starts out with a principal amount of $600 in an account, or it can be a loan with 0.05% interest. You start out at $600 and end at $720. So you made somebody made $120 in 4 years. The formula for that is in the red strip down below. How you would compare and contrast simple interest and compound interest. Simple interest is rather clearly defined with that formula at the bottom. If one takes an amount of $600 and applies 5% interest yearly, they will end with a bigger balance than originally began. The scenario is demonstrated in the table. This table shows the recalculation of interest earned and value of an account. It calculates next year's interest on the entire value of the account rather than just one principal amount. A solution for an investment of $100,000 at 6% interest for 4 years. This shows both simple interest and compound interest, how it would look with either one with $100,000 at a rate of 0.06% for a term of 4 years. You'll see a difference of over $26,000. How they're set up. The interest for the formula for the compound interest is down on the red strip down at the bottom. A compound interest formula is inscribed annually. The formula on the next slide demonstrates both simple and, best of all, compound interest scenario. What way would you design a formula for interest compounded several times per year? This last problem shows a formula in a scenario that pays compound interest weekly for several years. This is an investment or principal amount of $75,000 that pays 4.5%. This interest is compounded on a weekly basis for 8 years. Using a graphing calculator, one determines that a future value of $107,482.97 is considered. This future value is subtracted from the principal amount of over $32,000 as the interest made in this problem. So this formula uses compound interest done weekly every year. In these slides, we went over the difference between simple interest and compound interest. We also concluded with compound interest applied several times per year rather than annually. Formulas were also given for all 3 scenarios for one to understand how the calculation works. I also added easy to understand tables for your viewing pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my portion of the presentation. I know you easily learned about compound interest today and how to apply it in your everyday situations. I'm now handing it over to Jarvis, who will continue the conversation with using compound interest formulas during financial issues.
my screen share. Is it screen share? Did I share it? I didn't. Okay, Compound Interest and Finances by me, Jarvis Ricks. Okay, so Albert Einstein said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it. This means if you understand it, you know enough to invest your money in an account that will pay in compound interest. If you don't, you will end up choosing a loan that compounds, and you will be paying way more than you should. Okay, I want you to think about what you have either paid or earned in interest over the past few years. Credit card companies and car dealerships are always talking about loans and interest rates. What is your experience with them? Okay, so many loans we hear about and end up with are compound interest loans. I will help you understand how they work in the real world a little bit better. So, okay, some vocabulary words I will be using are principal interest, and interest rate, and compound. And compound interest is the addition of interest to the principal sum of a loan or deposit. Or in other words, interest or interest, it is the result of reinvesting interest rather than paying it out. So that interest in the next period is then earned or the principal sum plus previously accumulated interest. In other words, you're adding more and more to the total each month. Okay, so the compound interest formula that has already been explained by my partner is displayed here. To review, the variables in the formulas are the principal, the rate of interest, the number of times. The interest is compounded per year and the number of years total. I'll now show you how to use this for two different financial situations. Okay, example number one. Let's say you take out a loan for $10,000 for 1 year with 24% compound interest. This means you will have 2% interest per month that will be compounded. This loan is like taking a loan for 1 month and then rolling it over every month for 11 more months, and it will grow like a snowball. When using the formula as shown, the first month will yield $200 in interest. After that, it is added to the original principal, and the 2% interest will be taken on that and added again. This goes all the way throughout the course of the loan. As you can see, I got a table for every month, and the interest is added on to the amount for the whole year. You can see that. At the end of the year, the total principal here is $12,628, which means this person will have paid a total of $2,682 in compound interest. Another way that compound interest can be used in a much more enjoyable way is it can be used to calculate the earnings on a compounded interest investment. Let's say $10,000 for 27 years at 7% interest rate over the course of 27 years. That compound, we plug the variables into the formulas as shown and see that the outcome is a total of $62,139. This means the person earned $52,139 over the course of 27 years. So, do you see why Einstein said what he did about compound interest, and those who understand will earn money? If we don't understand it, we can definitely get ourselves into financial issues, paying much more money than necessary. Okay, to conclude, the compound interest formula can seem a little intimidating, but once you understand the variables, it's a lot better. Compounded interest is something that we need to understand because we can end up making a lot of money with it if done correctly. However, we sign up for a loan and that compounds at a higher rate, we will be losing a lot of money to the bank. Remember, compound interest snowballs, which means it only grows and gets bigger as time goes along. So when looking at compound interest versus simple interest, it's easy to see that simple will cost less in the long run. Plus, it's much easier for the typical person to calculate it. That would be my choice if I had one. It looks like the next group has the topic of buying stuff without money. That sounds like credit cards and loans to me, and I'm sure there's interest involved. Okay, I'm done.
That's crazy how fast interest adds up, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks for watching our presentation.